It's time for Show Off Sunday, where everyone has a chance to show off their own car, and here's this week's winner.
The GT-R is somewhat of an old platform. I mean, it's been around over 10 years, and they've revamped it a little here and there, and the 2017 model brought, a difference in the front fascia and, side skirts, and the rear end was changed just a little bit. Overall, it's kind of surprising that they're actually still selling this car, and one can be had for the ransom of around $120,000. One interesting thing to note about the GT-R is it's been kind of an anomaly with used car values. When they came out, somewhat 10 years ago, they're around $70,000 to get into one, and over the years the price has risen fairly dramatically, where now you can actually get a 2019 model for around $120,000. Well, as they kept raising the prices of the newer ones, it elevated the used ones, so it was hard to find one less than $55,000. The car is finished in regal red, and supposedly from Nissan, it has a actual real gold flake, and was a $3,000 upcharge. And it's a fairly rare color. There were only 180 US spec models with this color. Coming from a Toyota Supra, the interior is nice, but I really liked the Supra better. It felt more immersive. The earlier GT-Rs, the R35 model, they felt kind of lacking in the interior, and I can appreciate the newer ones are, taking a further step by actually putting in stitching with the leather trim and the carbon fiber accents here and there, and some on the climate and control, and then some on the gauges. The one thing I really like about this car is the multifunction display. This display was actually designed by Polyphony, who, if I'm not mistaken, helped design Gran Turismo. And it has quite a few functions and features. You go get your boost gauge, fuel flow, G meter. It's customizable for a lot of different formats, and you can pretty much check any parameter of the car's operating that you'd like. And it also has this timer, which of course, me personally on track day, I just kind of screw around and don't really do anything constructive, but it actually has a timer, and then of course your controls are right here on the steering wheel. You can sit there and start and stop, and you can mark your laps, and something I've never used, but I can see being pretty useful for that weekend road warrior. The interior is fairly comfortable after all. They have nice little details. And one thing that's kind of odd, there's actually a plastic emblem on the floor mat. But it's got nice stitching, and the interior is, like I said, not necessarily my favorite, but it is nice, I'm not gonna lie. There is a back seat, but I don't know why it's here, honestly. Our kid, he fits, and I use fit loosely. One great feature about this car is the launch control. Using the launch control, you can normally, a car in stock form can have a 0 to 60 acceleration around 2.9 seconds. And to activate the system, you go into R mode. So you set the transmission. You don't necessarily have to set the suspension, but I do it anyway. And the traction control. And to operate this, you'll obviously find a great straightaway. Put your foot on the brake, floor the car, it'll bring it up to approximately 4,000 RPM, drop the brake, and take off. And the acceleration is explosive. It's almost addictive, and definitely something that can get you in trouble. But I do have a friend that has one that's tuned to around 1,000 horsepower, and it just basically burns the tires off. It's not useful at all in the higher horsepower application. The The car is equipped with a 3.8 liter twin turbo V6, and there's some pretty cool details about it. You got pretty cool looking carbon fiber stiffener back here, and the radiator core support is actually made out of carbon fiber. The older GT-Rs, or the earlier R35 GT-Rs, only produced about 480 horsepower, and I believe the 2017 Plus produced 565. One thing I really miss with this car is the fact that it doesn't have a manual gearbox. It was never offered in the R35 model. It has a dual clutch transmission, which is the first that I've ever had. And I will say that the shifts are precise, they're pretty crisp, and it works well. I can't dispute that, but I just miss that extra element of banging through the gears. The car came stock with Brembo brakes. One thing about the car though is maintenance at the dealership is pretty expensive. Just a simple oil change is about $250, and transmission and diff service, which has to be done every 15 to 20,000 miles, is about $2,000. Fortunately for me, I'm a pretty good DIYer and can knock those out without issue. The car is pretty much stock. The only thing I did was I changed out the mid catalytic converters with just a straight through mid pipe, put a Meister shaft, catback exhaust. I put 2017 GT-R OEM wheels on the car, and I did put a carbon fiber front lip. My family and I were in Japan a few months back, and I was able to actually drive a GT-R, R34 GT-R for the day throughout Tokyo and kind of around. And it was a fantastic experience. It was basically that unicorn car I've always wanted, and unfortunately can't have here in the United States. But
thanks for watching.
Well, that was this week's video, and remember, to have your car video highlighted here on my channel, check this out! So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell!